Hello my friends and welcome back to PodCoder. In this video we are going to continue from where we left in the previous video. In the previous video we designed this beautiful form with these form fields, and also what we did was we integrated it with the States Rebuilder package for state management and other kind of functionalities that we want. So first thing first, what I'm going to do is let me first look at the design. So in the design we just left the deadline and organizer and also the save button. So let me create another form field class, and that is going to be the deadline form field dart, and it is going to be mostly similar to the title form field. I'm going to copy and paste it here, and I am going to select the name by pressing Command D on Mac or Control D on Windows, and I'm going to change this name to deadline form field. And instead of title, what we will have is this going to be the deadline, right? So deadline, oh my gosh, okay. And instead of a string, what we want is, if you look at here, we have a calendar, so this is going to be a date time, right? So we have date time, okay. And on the date time we cannot call is empty, and we can say deadline is required. Similarly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another form field, and that is going to be our organizer form field dart, and I'm going to copy the title again, paste it inside the organizer. I'm going to change the name from title form field to organizer form field, and also I want to change the title to organizer and change this exception to organizer. Okay, so we are done with creating the form field classes. Let me just close this one and also close the form field, or let me close all of this. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I am going to open the add new opportunity page, and here at the top I'm going to just copy and paste this line, and change the first one to deadline RM, and instead of country form field we will bring the deadline form field, and instead of null we are going to pass the okay. So deadline is also date time, we cannot pass empty string, we need to pass null by default, and we will have the organizer RM, and this is going to be our organizer form field, and for that we can pass empty because organizer is a string. So we are done with creating our form field classes. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to copy this States Rebuilder, which is the title form field. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going at the bottom here after this States Rebuilder, which is our country, I am going to paste it. But what I want is here I will first use the organizer RM, because this is a string, and most of the, let me close this navigation bar, and most of the content would be similar, but for the date time, which is our deadline, this is a little bit different. So we are going to do that after this. Okay, so here what we will have, we want to return the organizer form field, and instead of title what we will have is we'll have the organizer, and here enter, or what we can say, organizer name, and we will have the organizer for our title. So let me check. So we have organizer on the observe, this is rebuilding itself after we enter the data, and we are also setting the states on change, setting the organization states. We are passing the organizer, and also validating it, and we have this decoration. So let me save that. You can see we have the organizer the organizer, but there is no space above it. So what we want is we want to add a sized box with the height of, let me put 10, and let me save that. You can see it is already there. So we are done with this one. Let me just copy this ST3 builder and paste it here and here basically, and let me add, sorry, before pasting it, let me add let me copy just this sized box because I want to paste that ST3 builder between these two. And you can see we have two organizers, and this is going to be our deadline, right? And for the deadline we can have like here select deadline. Okay, so let me save that. You can see it is the deadline. What we want is here, you can see we have an icon, so that is the suffix icon on the on the text form field. So we have the suffix icon, and this is a type of icon. If I hover on it, let me hover on it, you can see it is a widget. Basically we can have some widgets, but I want to put an icon, so this is going to be icons dot, I believe it is event. Let me save that and check. Yeah, it is there. Okay, so we have this deadline, but we want to change this from organizer to deadline. So we have the deadline RM, so that's it. But what we want is, once we click on this deadline, we want to show a date picker. We just don't want to enter the date by our own. So we want to show a date picker, right? And for that we don't need this unchanged. So that's why I first copied the organizer. So I'm going to delete that. And instead what we want is, we want the onTap method. So this onTap is a method, and on top of this method what we want is, we want to show date time picker or date picker, and we need to provide all this necessary variables or parameters. And let me just show you something. If I hover on this show date picker, you can see this is a future method, meaning we need to await for it once we select the date. So let me create this onTap method as a sync and also await for it. And once we await for that, you can see it is returning the date time. So what we want is, we want a date time variable, and this date time is going to be our deadline, right? This is going to be our deadline. Okay, and for the parameters of this show date time picker, first we need is the context. So I'm going to provide or put the context, and initial date I'm going to put the date time dot now, means the initial date is date time now, and for the first date and last date, these are required, and if I don't put, we get an error. So for the first date as well, I am going to provide the date time dot now, but for the last date I want to put the date time now plus dot we can add, and so we need a duration, and in this duration I will put days, and let me put 600 days, and I will explain what does it mean, because this is a lot of code, right? Okay, so let me go back from this screen and come back sometimes, because some strange things is happening. The good thing is right now, if I click on that, you can see this show date picker appears, and the good thing is that we have the 2 days date by default, and that is because the initial date that we put the date time dot now, you can see it is already selected here, and for the first date it is here, and for the last date, if you see here, let me just select this the years. You can see that all these years prior to this 2020, which is our current year, is disabled, and after 2022 is also disabled, and that's why, because we selected the last date as date time now and we added 60 days, means roughly around 2 years. And because each year is 365 days, and you can, if you add like 600 days, it means roughly around kind of 2 years. So means this ranges from 2020 and plus the last date is 2 years. And if I change this one to suppose 100 or 1000 days, and if I go back here, you can see right now it is in 2022. Let me close this one and open it, and you can see that 2023 is also selected. So it depends on you how many years or how you want your application behave. You can play around with this show date picker. Okay, so now we have our deadline. Let me show you something. It is still here. Let me print this deadline. Okay, print deadline, and to check it. Okay, and this should be deadline. Okay, and let me open the console. Let me go to debug console. Let me clear everything. And if I right now, if I click a date, okay, if I click a date and press OK, you can see that the date time is appeared here. And if I select another day, you can see it is changed. But unfortunately, it is first not appearing here, right? This is a problem because it is not appearing. So how we can bring that, we'll do that. And let me show you something else too. If we open the calendar, show date picker, and we cancel it, you can see we are getting null. So if we don't select anything and we can't press cancel, means that this show date picker will return null. So for that, what we want is we want to check if, let me close this one. We want to check if that this selected deadline, so let me change this one to selected deadline. Okay, selected deadline, because it is more meaningful, right? And if I put it here, not equal to null, means if it is selected, what we want is we want to first set our deadline rm.setState. We are not interested in the is or state, and what we want is we want to return a new deadline form field with the selected deadline. Okay, with the selected deadline. And even what we can do is we can validate that. If you remember, we can call the validate method on that by this cascading operator. Okay, so we are done with this one. And let me do one thing. I remove that printf. Let me just print the deadline rm.state.deadline here to check whether it is changing the state or not. So let me open the terminal and let me clear it. And if I right now press a new or select a new button, you can see we got an error, and this is because during the development we pressed the Control S, and sometimes that strange behavior is happening. And right now, if I go back to the to another page and come back, and if I don't know what I'm doing. Where was here? Okay, we have this printf, and now if I select a new date, you can see that it is printed. And this is coming from our deadline state, means the state is changed. And if I select another one, you can see that is also coming. But unfortunately, still we don't have something here. And that is because what we need is we need to have a controller for this text form field. So I'm going on the top after this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a controller, and this is going to be our deadline controller. Okay, and this should be equal to text editing controller, and that's it. Okay, I'm going to back down here in the deadline. Inside the text from field, we want to set our controller as that deadline controller, and here once we select the deadline, what I want is I want to set that selected deadline to our the text of this text from field. So this text from field required a string, but what we have is we have a date time, and with a specific format we want to show that. We can somehow do it, but it looks ugly. Let me show it to you. We have our controller dot text equal to selected deadline. If we put it like this, dot to string or to ISO string or to local, if I put it like this and save that, and now it is not appearing. Let me select another date, press enter, the same strange error is happening. I don't know what is wrong with this S3 builder. And if I'm working on the page and I'm saving that, it's creating this strange error. You can see this is looking really ugly, right? It is not in a good format or good shape. And if I even call to a string on that, let me save it, let me select, I will get that, we'll get that strange error. Let me go back and just go back and turn again. You can see it's still the same. So how we can format this to look a little bit nicer? For that, what we need is we need a package called Intel Flutter. If you search for that Intel Flutter, you can see that we have this package, and just you can grab it from here, from the dependencies, go to your project in the YAML file. Let me go back to the YAML file. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paste it after this Flutter secure storage, press save, and just wait till this pub-get is finished and we are done. And now let me close this navigation bar. Here what we can do is, let me select this selected deadline. Here we have right now a date format, and this format is coming from the that Intel package. In what format what we want is we want the it should be YYY, means year, and also we want MM and DD and dot format. So let me bring this one from the Intel package. Why it is not coming? Okay, date format. Wow, it should come. Okay, so now we can call the format method on that and paste our date, which is the selected date that we got from the show date picker, and then dot to a string. So if we do so, and let me save that, let me go back and go again to that page. And if I select this date and press OK, you can see it is looking perfect right now. And if I change to another date, you can see it is looking the same as well. So this Intel library that we imported has many other really good features, or we can say some handy APIs that you can work when you're working with date time. So now successfully we designed all the form with the necessary fields that we wanted, and now what is remained is the button that we have, right? So for the button, there are some necessities that we need to consider, and especially when it comes to the phone validation. So if there is any required field in this form, we want our button to be disabled till that required field is filled with some correct data. So for that, let me first copy this size box, and after this state builder, which is for the organizer, I am going to paste the sized box, and I am going to change the value of height to 20, and I am going to create a state builder widget. And this state builder is different from the others. Why? Because we want to observe many form fields. many form fields which are required. So for in the instance, suppose we want to look for the title RM, right? And also we want to look for the description RM or any other required form field that we have in this application. So right now we are getting this error because we haven't put the builder inside this state builder widget, which is a required parameter. So we want to have a builder, and also with the, so we are not interested in the context and also the model. And what we want is right now we want to return a material button, and for the onPressed of this material button I want to put now an empty method, and also for the child of this I want to put a text, and for the text I can just say create opportunity, even though there we have save. So I want to change that to create opportunity. Okay, let me save it. You can see right now we have it, but it looks only the text. What we want is we want to rebuild, or sorry, we want this states rebuilder to rebuild itself whenever any of these reactive models are changing. In this case, we have title and also we have description. So when the title is changing, this should rebuild itself, right? To just observe the form fields, and if they are correct, then we want this, enable this button. So what I mean is, let me put this should rebuild, which will observe these models, and I will put it as true. And also I want to add a color to this material color. Let me put our branding color and let me save that. You can see right now it's looking better. Let me put a style for this text. So we have text style, we'll have the color should be colors.white because it will make a good contrast. So we have that. Let me add a font size. Oh, not font family, we'll have font size. Let me put 20 for it. Okay, so we are good to go. We need to add some padding to this material button. So let me add the padding, and this should be edge insets dot symmetric, and for the horizontal I want to put 20, and for vertical I want to put 10. Let me save that and let me check how it looks. It looks better. And also for the shape, what we want is for the shape of this material button, I want the outline input border. So let me put that. Yeah, it looks good, but we have a border, and that border side, we want the border side to be none, because right now added this dark background, sorry, border. So we want the border should be removed. Okay, so now this button looks perfect, right? Even it has this ripple effect and everything. Okay, what we want is we want this button to be disabled, and also the color of this button should be different, or it should be red whenever any required field in this form is not filled with the correct data. So how we can do that? We can disable a button by passing null to it. A material button, if we pass null, it means it is disabled. So now how we can do that, or how we can achieve it? So for that reason, what we want is at the top here, after this form fields and even after this controller, I want to have a getter, and I will call it as is valid, and this will return a boolean, right? And what we want is we want to check the required form field. Suppose in our case the title is required, the title. So we'll check the title has data. If it has data, so it has data, it will return a boolean. And also we want this description also to have data. And we have this one. And now each time that we are changing the title or description, it will rebuild this button as well, the button widget as well. So here we'll have it. And now what we can do is we can check for that is valid. If it is valid, then we want to have a method, otherwise we want to pass null. So if I check that, you can see it disappeared, and it disappeared because we don't have a color. So right now I see something there, but it is not showing. So if I add disabled colors, so let me put as colors.red and save that, you can see it is coming, and this is because our form is not validated and it is looking only for these two form fields. Suppose if I put the titles at some data which is validated, and then if I put this one, it should rebuild itself, but right now it is not, because let me just go back to this page and come back, because sometimes I don't know why that's happening. And you know, see, it is changing the color once these two fields are like provided with the correct data. And you can see right now, once the validation of any required field is failed, then it will change the color. So let me put the data, you can see it's changing. See, that's really great, right? So now we can even look further. Suppose the category is also required, so let me put the category. Also let me put the country, okay, the country, and also let me put the deadline. Everything in this form is required. So make sure that you are providing here the RM or reactive model that we created above here. I mean the RMs, you need to put these things, otherwise it will not work, because this observe many requires an array of reactive models. Okay, and also let me put the organizer RM. Now we are done with these things, and we can extend further this is valid. Let me put something, let me put the category in a different way. I'm not going to call the has data, sorry, the category RM, and I'm not going to call the has data, and instead what I'm going to call is I'm going to call the state of this reactive model, and inside that I want to create or call a method called is valid. So basically this method does not exist on this category RM. And why I did so, because I want to show you if you want to validate your data in a different way, so how you can do that. So in the RM category RM, if I open it, you can see we have this validate. We haven't used that. I want to create another method, and this method will return a boolean, and I will call this one as is valid, and we check, will return that category is not equal to null. So if the category exists, then you can kind of just validate it as true, otherwise it will return as false. So now we can see that that is valid is there. So here what we have is we have entered three parameters, or we have put it like three form fields. So now, even though you can see that let me go back and open the page again, you can see I'm typing something in the title. You can see the button is still disabled. If I select the description, still it is disabled. Why? Because we put the category here as well. So if I select a category, turns to enable. So the same way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this for the country and for the deadline. I'm going to paste that here. So here we want to return the deadline, okay, and also for the country the same way. And you can have your custom validation logic here. So I'm just showing you the way how you can achieve this functionality, but it is up to you how you want to put your own logic and your own functionality. The same way, I'm going to copy this part and I am going to provide and end. Okay, and this should be the country, and we also added, let me save that because it looks ugly, and I want to put it the same way for the deadline because we have added this method, if you remember, on these files. And for the final one, I'm going to with the has data method, so organizer dot has data. So now all these form fields in this form is required, and we need to provide the data, otherwise this button will not work. You can see I'm clicking on it, but it is not showing any ripple function, ripple effect or anything. But now, let me go back because that is really a pain, honestly. Sometimes that error, a strange error is coming. So let me select the category, let me select a country, let me put a deadline here, and let me put organizer. You can see that it is validating, and if I don't put any of it, it is still looking red. But I want to tell you something here. Just make sure that if you put anything on this is valid here, and you are not kind of observing it here, it will not work. For instance, let me remove this organizer. See, we have the organizer here in our validation, but here you can see that even if I put the organizer, still it is red. Why? Because here we are not observing any changes on the organizer, so that's why it is not rebuilding itself. For that reason, just make sure to put it here inside this observe many array. Okay, so now we are done. So if I go back and open the method again, let me put some data, dummy data. I want to do it fast. I don't know what I'm putting, but put the organizer. We are done. So now our form is completely done, and it is the time to call a method here on press of this save button. So let me create a method as save opportunity, right? Which does not exist yet, and we are going to create this method. So we are going to create that. After this is valid, I am going to create a future method, because once we are sending an opportunity to the server, it takes a little bit time. I'm going to put the name as a save opportunity, and this is going to be an async method. And now it is the time to save this opportunity, right? So we want to save this opportunity, but we have all these parameters or our form fields. Consider if you have a longer form field, then passing all those form fields to a method which will be in your state, right? Because you want to call your state. That is not a good practice. So what we can do is we can create a separate class or a model for this form to have all the necessary form fields, and we can pass that class to the to the function in the state or in the repository. What I mean is, let me go and explain it by the code. Let me close this form fields, and inside the opportunity, inside the classes, I am going to create a class. I will call it as opportunity form model. So this is our model class .dart, and it is going to be a class. I will call it as opportunity form model. We will have the first thing final string title. We will have final string description. Basically, for each and every entity inside your form, you create the equivalent variable here. So we'll have the final category as a category, we'll have a final final country as a country. We will have the final date time as our deadline. We will have a final string, which is our organizer. And now it is the time to create the instance of this class. So I'm pressing Command dot on Mac, or you can do it with Control dot on Windows. Let me close the navigation button. And what we want is we want to have a parameterized method, so we will be able to have the names. And right now you can see if we put it like this, this is the optional parameter. So we want to put the at required because these fields are required, and we need to import the meta library. So meta.dart. Okay, and we are done. I'm just going to copy this one, and I am going to press the shift and option on Mac, or shift or alt on Windows, and select all these lines and press the Control V or paste that required. So we are done with this class. I am going to just copy the name and close it. And here inside our method, I want to create an instance of that class. So I will call it as data, and this is going to be the class itself. So let me remove this one. Let me bring it by pressing Control dot Command dot on Mac, and just put the name as opportunity form model. And you can see we have all those title, description, and everything because of that optional parameter. Let me put a semicolon here to be formatted nicely and be clear to you. And now it is the time to put the data inside this one. So for the title, we have title RM, which is a reactive model, and this reactive model will have an state, and inside that state we have the title. Okay, so we have the description RM, we can call the state on it, and also from that the description. And just make sure that when we call the state, it means the current state of this class, and inside that we have the title. For the description, we have the description. So that's why I'm calling the title RM state and title, and so on. So for the category, we have it's the same way, the category RM state category. The country, we have the country RM dot state dot country, and also we can call the deadline RM dot state dot deadline, and finally we can call the organizer RM dot state dot organizer. So we are done. You can see that we have too many variables. So if we could have passed all these variables to a function, it would have been a kind of a headache to handle that. And even consider if you had like a bigger form or a linear form, so how many variables you could have done. Okay, so now what we want is we want to call the opportunity state, right? Opportunity state, and inside that we want to have a method like the save opportunity. If you remember in our previous lectures, or sorry, in the previous videos, we were starting everything from first by adding a method inside the repository, and then inside the state, and then calling that on our UI. But in this video, I want to go in the reverse direction. Means that first I will bring the state here. So final, I will call that opportunity state. I will bring the opportunity state, and we are going to get it with the RM, and that is going to be an instance of our opportunity state. We have it here. Okay, so how we can get this one? With the help of dependency injection that I explained in the previous videos as well. And now what I want is I want to call the opportunity state dot set state, and we have the state, and inside that state I will call that as save opportunity, but this method is not existing there, and so we need to create that in the opportunity state. And for that I want to pass the data that we have, the opportunity form model data. And once we call to this method, we want to await for it, right? Because it takes a little bit time. Okay, so now we are done with this part. What we need is we need to create this save opportunity method inside the opportunity state. So I am going to the opportunity state, and here I want to create a future method, and I will call it as a save opportunity, and this will have a parameter of opportunity form model, and this should be our model, and this is an async method again because it is future, and for it we will wait for the var response to be have. Let me put the response somewhere else. Right now we don't need for that. We'll call await, and then we will call to the opportunity repository and a method called save opportunity, okay, which is not existed yet, and we want to pass the model. The save opportunity method does not exist on the opportunity repository, so we will create that, and first we will create it inside our opportunity repository abstract class. So this is going to be a future, and it will return an opportunity after saving, okay, and we will name it as save opportunity, and this also will accept an opportunity form model, which is model. Okay, and now see the beauty. We need to overwrite this method because this method, this class implements the opportunity repository. So we need to overwrite all the methods, and here we have it. We have this method, and we need to put async here. Let me remove this to do, and the same way that we did here, I am going to do the same. So basically we want to try to save this opportunity on the server, and if we face any exception or error, we want to catch it. So on .u error, because we are interested only on the network errors. If there is something, some other errors, we want to throw it. We don't want to catch that. So we want to catch, by category. We want to catch error or E, and we want to just throw show network error, and we want to pass the E. We have done this one in the previous video, so no, I feel there is no need to explain it. Okay, so we want to try to get a response. So our response is equal to await, and we want to call the forset API that we have .u, and this time we want to post some data to the path. So what path we have? Let me go to the back end, and inside the back end we have the opportunity. So this is a resource file, and for all the path it is the same. So we have it for the get. Let me copy it from here till here. So we have API slash opportunities, and now for the post we need to pass the data as well. So what would be our data? We have the model here, but we need to create the data from it, and for that I need to go to the opportunity controller that we have here and look for the store method to see what is or what are the required data. So these are the required data. I am going to copy it and paste it here. Let me comment it out. So we have the title, description, category, and everything, but make sure to put this thing because this is the request and coming the title. I mean, this is your what we can say the database columns, but here we have the variables, the parameters in the request. So just make sure to put these things. A category ID is in camel case, and here we have with underscore. Okay, so now we need to create a data object, and in that object what we will have is, first we will have title, and this title is going to be the model that we have, right? This opportunity for model, and inside that we have title, the same way we will have for the description, and this is going to be the model dot this, sorry, not deadline description. We will have our category ID. I told you just this part. Okay, category ID, and this should be our model dot category dot ID, not only the, what you can say, not only the category, because it requires an ID. Okay, and then we will have our country ID. Let me copy it from here, paste it. So we will have our model dot country dot ID, the same way as ID. Okay, and then we have our deadline, and this deadline is basically a dead time. And if you don't know, just go to the database. Here we have the opportunity. You can see we have the timestamp, means dead time. Okay, so now this we cannot send the date time instance of Flutter. What we can do is we can call the model dot deadline dot to ISO 8601 string, and this will just convert this dead time instance to the string equivalent. And finally we have the organizer. I'm going to put it here, and we will have our model dot organizer, and the final required field is our created by, and this is basically the user ID. So now we have the user logged into the system, but unfortunately we are not able to fetch the user ID, and I will do this one in the next video. So for now I want to hard code that and put as 1. So we are done with the data, and now I am going to remove this commented data. We have this data, and I want to pass it as our post data. And if you see here, this inside the API, inside the API, this is protected by this auth API middleware, means it needs the token. So we have done this one. I am going to just copy these options from here, and I know lots of copying, right? I know that in the next video I will try to get rid of all these unnecessary things, and we will have an interceptor, and where we can we are able to pass the token and whatever fields that we need to send with response, or sorry, with a request. So we have our calling, we are calling to the back end, to the server side code, and we will have the response. So let me just print the response. So print it here, and we are good to go. Let me open the console. Let me clear the console. Let me go back from this. Let me refresh the app, because sometimes some strange errors are happening. I don't want to see any. I want to just check it. Okay, so we don't have any problems, any errors. This is just a kind of warning. We don't care about it. And once I click on this one, we will have the title. I will write a brand new opportunity title, and here is the description about the brand new opportunity, whatever. This is going to be a scholarship. The country is this country, and also the deadline is 18th of December, and we will have our organizer, right? So once I just press save button, and hopefully we got the data back from the from the server side code. How we know that this data is there? So let me refresh the opportunities. So this opportunity here, we have a brand new opportunity. Okay, and just I want to tell you, you will not have this brand new opportunity. I did something here, and you need to do it the same to get the latest one at the top. I have just added this order by descending here in the back server side code. So basically, previously it was only like this, right? It was like this. Sorry, it was like this, and I have just added this order by ID and descending, and after that I'm paginating the data. That's the only difference. So here we have added this two brand new opportunity, and if I click on this one, you can see we get an error, and the reason is that we haven't added the opportunity detail. So this doesn't have an opportunity detail, but this one has, right? And that's why this opportunity detail is coming there. So thank you for watching, and I am really happy that this application is basically getting the shape, and also we are like approaching to the end, and we are building this beautiful application, and we will be continuing till the end. So in the next video, what we will have, I will try to have somehow be able to get the current user from the application and bind it with this ID, and also get rid of all this hard-coded all these hard-coded headers that we are sending with each request. You can see we have it all over the places, but we want is inside our Force API that we have the DAU. Here we are able to add some interceptors to this. So inside the interceptors, in the next video, I will add all those required and necessary headers. So thanks again for watching and being here. Kindly subscribe and hit the bell button to be able to get notified about the next video. Bye.